Now, I couldn't decide officially where my extra energy came from. Was I trying to save the world? Did I join Greenpeace? Or could it just be this do everything attitude behind me? Hey, and welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, this week, energy levels went up, and it all had to do with the 2015 Ford Expedition, because full-size SUVs really make you want to do something. So what is it about the Expedition that gets me so energized? It has to be the fact that it is full size. Now, there's a little niche out there called the mid-size segment, but when you go to this, well, heck, it consumes it. Now, the Expedition does come in two sizes, the standard or the EL model. Now, what that means is it competes with the likes of the Tahoe and Suburban, but when we look at this numbers, you're going to see some big differences. By the numbers, the Expedition comes in around about 206 inches overall with a stretch wheelbase at 119. Now, for the EL, obviously expanded the numbers, around about 131 inch stretch wheelbase with 220 overall. Now, looking at the basic model, comparing it to its own Explorer, well, it's going to beat it by about 6 inches, and where that really matters for this offering is really on the inside. Now, when I took first glance at the Expedition, I had to take pause because I had nostalgic feelings from about 15 years ago and my first test drive behind the Lincoln Navigator. Now, those were good feelings, and it kind of reminded me of it, maybe on this Platinum Edition, all the chrome. But since then, this vehicle has kind of morphed and changed just a little bit. No bellowing out, even the Expedition had for a few years. Now we've got tighter lines, kind of no awkward rear end, and what you're going to notice is they've truly gone to that box style design, square lines, square edges, and that's where you truly get the best numbers on the inside, something the crossover segment could learn something from. Grille warfare's at the front of any design, and here on the Expedition, well, they pretty much keep it straightforward. After all, when you see a massive vehicle like this, heck, it doesn't matter what you have up front, people are going to pretty much move out of the way. Now, what you see is stereotypical horizontal grille right here, huge Ford emblem, and a lot of body color and a lot of chrome. Now, the headlights are pretty much stylized, stereotypical, but do have a little bit of lens flare on the front end. With full-size footprint, you've got to have the sensory factor right here up front. Now, what that means is, again, the ability to squeeze in tight spots. Now, over the last decade, the back sensors have really moved to the front because it's just as important to kind of drive into a space as it is to back up. And with these sensors, it makes life so much easier. Just as important as sensors, you really need big mirrors, and this vehicle delivers. Now, what's helped with this is, of course, a blind spot awareness, a little indicator on the mirror. It's going to let you know when people are beside you as you're kind of wanting to change lanes. But better yet, in a vehicle like this, they'll know you're coming over. One of the most important features on any full-size SUV has to be the back end and, of course, the cargo space. Now, before we climb inside, let's look at the rear design, and what I'm referring to is the full-size hatch. Now, again, flashing back to those Navigator days, what I see is a little bit of comparison, but what I didn't like on the Navigator was really that oversized glass that kind of made it a little bit of awkward proportions. Here, it's nice and equal. Now, one thing to talk about, as always, is the key fob. Now, this one didn't really have the smart key system, meaning you walk up to it, it knows you're there, you pull on the handle. I still had to do the old push the button, and it was still okay. But what I like is there is no traditional key. Now, when you look on the inside here of the Expedition, what's great is you have the divided rear hatch. And what I'm referring to is the fact that you can either lift it up full or go right through the glass. And what a lot of SUVs are not really doing is providing this. And it all comes down to the fact that the windshield wiper is placed on the glass, and some SUVs just can't figure out how to master popping that and leaving this here. But what's great on the Expedition, they've really handled it just fine. Now, what's great about this rear lift glass is the ability to take the kind of interior cargo and let it expand out just a hair without really raising this whole rear hatch. And what's great is once you raise it up, any kind of long boards really can extend from that dash on out here, kind of that 10-foot, 12-foot range, because during our trip, we actually hauled quite a bit of lumber in here, and for the most part, most of it fit in here with ease, but in some cases, we really need this extra space, and bringing this hatch up is just kind of cumbersome and really a pain. And without this glass, on a lot of SUVs, they're really missing out on that kind of ease factor. Now, once you raise this rear hatch, what's great on this particular model, it does have the power hatch, kind of rises to the occasion with ease, and once it's open, you see a lot of cargo right there in front of you. Now, by the numbers, you're looking at about 55 cubic feet of space from the second row back, and if you do kind of bring the third row up, decent numbers, just over 18 cubic feet, kind of comparison to a full-size sedan. Now, if you want to look at the EL model, now those numbers are really going to expand as you're looking at about 85 cubic feet behind the second row and a whopping 40 plus cubic feet just behind the third row. Power seemed to be the key here on this particular model, and really right here at the back seats. Now what you do is you want to power these up, simply hold it down. It's going to make those rear seats get into their final position. Now one thing to talk about is there's really no room under the rear cargo floor, but there is this kind of little niche here that holds the jack for a spare tire, which is a nice full-size one under there. Now better yet, if you want to power this down, you do have, of course, on the key fob or the button here on the back cargo area. With this full size comes a hefty step in, but what makes it easy is the power step rails on this particular model. They fold down when you need it. As you close the door, they tuck out of the way. Now, just because you're full size, when it comes to the overall length, it doesn't mean you have to be that way under the hood. Now, what Ford delivers is not V8 power, but instead a 3.5 liter V6 version that is the EcoBoost model. Now what's great about that is it delivers twin turbochargers on the engine, which is what makes this one have a lot more horsepower. Now by the horsepower numbers, you're looking at 365 horses and 420 foot-pounds of torque. Now if you want to compare that to the Tahoe, well, it actually wins quite well, as those numbers fall well below what you see here. Now I recently tested out the EcoBoost model on a Ford Mustang, and that one was actually a 4-cylinder and delivered V6 like power. So to find the EcoBoost here on the Expedition meant a couple of things. One, we had decent gas mileage, but even better, great boot scoot and boogie even on a V6, and it really all delivered right here behind the wheel and really shot off the line. One thing that truly has to be deluxe on a full-size vehicle like this is legroom numbers, and when you look here at the Expedition, well, again, it delivers. Now by the numbers, you're looking at about 43 inches up front, more than enough to stretch out, but second and third row, where it truly matters, and by those numbers, you're looking at 39 and 37 inches, well above the competition. Par for the course here on the Expedition. You'd expect it here on the dash. Again, full-size offering when it comes to the screen. This one being the Ford MyTouch system with about an 8-inch screen. Now what I like compared to the competition is this 4-quadrant design, the same thing we saw in our recent test drive on the Ford Mustang. And what it allows you to do is really navigate 4 different operations. Really, you want to turn the heated seats on and off right here without having to go to a full screen. But if you want to kind of zoom in, simply press that quadrant. It's going to take over the screen. Now, as for buttons and knobs, well, they're kind of minimal down below with a little bit of selection in between the volume and tune select. And I really like that because it takes the clutter at an overall system. Now, if you choose not to use the climate controls on the big screen, you can use the buttons down below. About the only area you're going to find a clutter of it. Now, to the left and right are the dual climate temperature settings, and they relate to the screen as well. And what you're not going to find is an oversized fan speed knob, which is something I prefer. Instead, you do find these little buttons, something a little bit hard to kind of navigate your fingers to when you're going down the road. Now, as for the overall design, really it's stereotypical for most full-size SUVs with a center divide that again is oversized. Now what you're going to find here is 2 oversized cup holders, an oversized niche for the phone or coins or whatever, and of course this oversized center console. Now what you're going to find in here is deep storage that is very cavernous and really kind of swallows anything you throw in there. You're also going to find connectivity for your devices, 2 USB connections, a power jack, an auxiliary line in, and the SD card reader. Now what I've noticed with Ford is that an SD reader, when you have navigation, is kind of taken up by that mapping. So if you take it out, where you're going to lose a little bit of your navigation system, but at least you'll be able to browse your pictures. Now what does abundant legroom look like? Well, pretty much this. Now again, this is 37 inches back here, and this is just plenty comfortable. And what I like here is it comes down to seating choices, and what you see here is 3 across. Now you can go with caption chairs, and that's going to minimize your overall occupancy, of course, by 1, but what it does is give you that center aisle, which is helpful for ingress. Now what you see here is going to be your best bang for your buck, giving you 3 plus 3 plus 2 type seating. the most you can put in this vehicle. Now you can't forget about heating and cooling down your rear occupants, and that's done with this tri-zone system. Now they're going to control this themselves, and you can kind of help them out from the front if you want to. Now again, there's some connectivity back here with an AC power outlet, just like you're going to find at home. Now one thing to touch on, we talked about the EL, the Suburban for comparison, and what you're going to notice, regardless if you go with the Expedition we see here or the full size, well, pretty much seating is going to be the same. All the legroom numbers are going to be great across the board, but what of course expands here on the EL is that rear cargo. Now for comparison, compared to the Tahoe and the Suburban, the Tahoe is only going to have 24 inches of legroom back there. The Suburban only going to increase to 34. That is compared with third row inches legroom being around about 37 inches here on this Expedition. So again, regardless of the size you go with, you're going to have plenty of room for any occupant you throw inside. Now one thing to talk about is really transforming this cabin into cargo hauler, and really the third row is made fairly easy, again with those powered seats, and the second row not too bad either. Now the way you do it, this is kind of broke up into thirds here in the second row, and you can really treat each seat individually. Now what's great here in the center, you simply pull this handle and it's going to simply tumble forward, no headrest to worry about. Now here on these other chairs, what you're going to have to think about is really the headrest. Now back in the good old days, you had to take that out, put it somewhere, but not today. All you have to do is pull here and it's going to tumble forward. Now once you do that, simply pull here on this handle, it's going to tumble forward again. Now at this point, you could treat this all as one kind of flat cargo area, but if you need to, you can grant easier access by tumbling this forward and simply climb inside. Now once you get to the third row, one thing I have to point out is really the theater style seating, and where it all is focused is the amount of height you really have on these back seats. Now that's something that's not really normal, because most of the time this seat is almost on the floor right above the axle, so it could be uncomfortable. But with this elevated seating, one thing, better legroom numbers and just an overall better feel. That does it for this edition of Road Warrior and a test drive behind the wheel of something that truly energizes me, known as a full-size SUV, in this case the Ford Expedition. Now as always, it delivers great third row occupancy, decent cargo to boot, and of course a great power plant under the hood disguised as a V6. Now as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.